All right.
Good morning. This is community activist Teddy Parham out here today at the capital, the state capital of Virginia. I am out here this morning for a reason. Today is September the 21st, 2014, and I have some serious issues on my mind that I would like to address with you. And it's just so much evil that's going on in the city of Richmond. People are trying to get rid of the Bible. They're trying to do away with God. If they could, they would get rid of the higher power. But that isn't going to happen. But I'm here to talk to the women, the females, and some men about some things that have happened today. This would be one of my testimonies, and I swear on this information on my life to my God, my mother, Miss Murray Williams. This is confession time. There are a lot of evil things that have happened to me, and I want other women to be aware of the things that are going on. Today, standing on in front of the state capitol, I want to talk about the subject rape. Rape. That's what I'm talking about, rape. So many young women are raped in their lifetimes. Guys, a lot of guys just don't have respect for the women, but I want to tell you about me and how I was raped at the age of 15. I must tell it. I have a son because of that rape, and he is over 40 years old, and I was hoping that the offender, the abuser, would come forward one day and apologize to me and to let the world know that my son was his son. And his name is John W. Fleming. John Fleming lived in Goochland, Virginia. He had a family there, his mother and father. He had brothers, Melvin Fleming, Edmund Fleming, his best friend Harris, and they all used to come down from the country with their nice motorcycles and their nice trucks. It was obvious that they had money, but we were poor. We lived in public housing. We lived in Wickham Court. My mother was in a car accident. She was one of the first people of color that I ever heard of that was hit by a car, had the pedestrian right of way, and nothing was done for my mother. Every bone in the left side of my mother's body was broken. My mother was brought home by a little Caucasian lady. I don't like to use the word white because I haven't seen but one white person in my lifetime, and he was died. Okay? This was during a time during segregation, when there was no ambulance to bring my mother home. This little woman had enough heart to help get my mother in the back seat of her car, and she drove my mother home. And we were upset. We were really upset because my mother had been broken up. She was the only source of income. She had left my father. Foolishly, I'm a grown woman, I can say that now, but that's another story. But she lost her job. She lost her home. We ended up in public housing. She was then working for the law firm Allen, and Allen. I have a baby sister whose father is not my biological father, but his name was Ned Robinson. You know him as Ned DeKett. My half-sister Carl Parham. Allen Parham is named after Ned Robinson. Ned died recently, but I want anybody that's looking or watching that knows my sister and knows his daughters. I understand he had other biological daughters. I want them to get with my sister, half-sister Carl Parham. She needs family. We're all that's left just about, except for the nieces and nephews. But that's why it's so important that I tell this story. When we had to move to Wickham Court, because my mother lost it all, baby sister named after the Allens, of the Allen law firm, my mother actually thought that they were going to help her win the case. against the guy that hit her, but obviously they were paid off, so nothing ever happened, and our life went totally down. Over the years, I attended Wickham Elementary, Mosby, John Marshall at one time, and John F. Kennedy. All were schools in the city of Richmond. I want to say this, talking about the rape now. I want the bells to subside. I'm going to wait. I'm going to give that as a moment of silence with the American flag to my father. Because doing this report, I found out that my father was an American veteran, a World War I hero. Yes, World War I. My father fought in World War I, and he was a hero. But I didn't know this. I had people to do research on my family. So, Dad, I salute you. I know I got this fighting spirit from somewhere. But now, back to the rape. Let me talk about this. I was in high school. I was 15 years old. I was a virgin. Even though everybody around me had children, never been touched. There was this one guy, I always figured if I grew up and became a pretty girl, that maybe he would take some interest in me. And his name, and I'm going to tell it because I'm not ashamed, because he was a gentleman then and a gentleman now. His name was Edward Gill. I had a crush on Edward Gill because he was so fine, and it was his brother that won the lottery here in the city of Richmond that built the annex onto Fairfield Middle School. So the building in Fairfield Middle School, Edward Gill's brother built that, put that building up there for the children, for the community. They gave back to the community. They are few of the people that have ever given anything back to the community. As you know, there's a lot of racism going on here, and I'm going to talk about that later on. Since my last television show, it's been just so many things that have been happening. There have been so many things that have been happening, and I want you to know that this, I'm laying the truth down before my God at the state capitol for the women that have been raped. It's a terrible thing. Now, I was a virgin in high school, had never been kissed by a boy, never had any brothers. It was just my two sisters. And this guy, John, and his brothers always came down during the week. They had money and cars and motorcycles. Well, I wasn't interested in all of that because my mother had a tight rein on me. It was so tight that I want to say this to a lot of the mothers with young girls. Talk to your daughters about their bodies. Talk to them about what happens when Mother Nature comes to visit. My mother didn't teach me that. There was a lot of ignorance there back then, but with my daughter, I taught her everything because I didn't want what happened to me to happen to her. So, I'm going to start the story now. One day I was walking home from Mosby Middle School, and that's from one heck of a walk from Mosby Court all the way to Wickham Court. When I was walking, I felt something running down my legs. My mother had never talked to me about menstruation. So those are things that you hid and people didn't talk about, but things need to change today. I was walking home from middle school when I felt something run down my legs. Well, I didn't know. And I stopped at Mr. Hyde's store on Mechanicsville Pike, and I went in. I knew Mr. Hyde. My babysitter used to live across the street, and I went in and I went to his wife and I told her that I had a problem, but I didn't know what it was. And she carried me in the bathroom. This lady knew me, she knew my mother, she carried me in the bathroom, she laughed, she said, "Oh, you're becoming a woman now. You've come on your menstrual period." So anyway, she kind of fixed me up so I could make it home. And I made it home, and my mother wasn't home, and I went to my neighbor's house, Miss Jackie. And I cried because I didn't know what was wrong. I knew my mother was going to discipline me. I mean, beat your ass. Back in the day, they spanked your ass. They got a switch, a branch, anything that they could get to if you were wrong. But they weren't trying to kill you. They were trying to make you aware that you had done something wrong. And it was so important. They wanted to make sure you never pulled that again. Miss Jackie Manning, when I got to her house, that was one of my neighbors. She fixed me up. She gave me a pad and cleaned me up and waited until my mother got home. But when my mama got home, she didn't really want to hear all that. She wanted to spank my behind again. So anyway, after that initial shock, things went on. So my neighbors, they all had children. I lived down the bottom on Magnolia Street with the Marshalls and the Hobsons and the, oh my God, the Sumlers. And I'm going to show you all videos of this. But anyway, one particular night, Charlene Hobson, who was a good friend of mine, Charlene had a daughter named Noni, and her sister Bobo, or they call her name was Dolores, but they call her Bobo. They were friends with these Fleming boys. They knew these guys. They were out with these guys at night, and I had never been out at night. So Charlene came to my house one night, and she asked my mother, could I just come outside for a little while? And my mother loved Charlene, and my mama just said yes. And I walked outside. I had on a dress, and I walked to the curb, and that was John with his nice shiny Torino. He had a Ford Torino car. And Charlene started giggling, but Charlene was sexually active. Charlene had a baby, so she left me over there with John. And I'd never sat in a boy's car before, never kissed a boy, never held a boy's hand. And he opened the door. That's the first time I had ever been in his car. And he said to me, come on, sit down. So I said, no, my mama killed me. He said, just for a minute. So anyway, I sat down in the passenger seat. He went around to the driver's side, and then he turned on the music, and I looked around the car and said, oh, this is really nice. It probably costs a little piece of money. And he laughed. He's chewing that chewing gum. I could smell it. It smelled like spearmint. So anyway, he was laughing. He turned on the music. He said, relax, relax. And I said, no, because if my mama catch me out here, she gonna kill me. That's all to it, just that simple. So he said, well, wait a minute. He opened his door. He hit the lock. Now I know what the sound of a lock on a car sounds like. And he told me, before he hit the lock, he asked me to open my door. So I opened my door, and he said, leave it open. And he got out his door and locked that door and came on my side, and he told me to scoot over. Well, it had the gear shift in the middle of the seat. And anyway, I said, no, this is not comfortable. He said, just scoot over. I'm going to show you something. I had on a dress. Had never kissed a guy. Never held his hand. Never breathed the same breath. Never touched his lips. Nothing. He said, slide over, slide over. So I slid over. And the next thing I know, he did this roll over top of me. Now, this is in the evening, just starting to get dark. So anyway, I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? The next thing I know, he put his mouth on mine, which had never happened before. I had on a dress. I could feel him. I was struggling, trying to hold my dress down. He pulled my dress up and bit my lip at the same time. He had thrust himself in me. One time, all it took was that one time for him to violate me like that, and I was just screaming. And then there was a knock on the window, and I was really scared because I said, oh my God, somebody know we in this car. And the guy said, police officer Theodore, I'm going to tell your mama on you. And then I really went crazy. So finally he opened the door. I went home. Never said anything to my mama, and I went upstairs and washed up and cleaned up the best I could. He left. But you know what I say? That one time, John Fleming, when you thrust yourself into me, you almost destroyed my life. Guess what? You got me pregnant. I didn't even have enough sense to know it didn't have anybody I could talk to. I couldn't even tell them what had happened. So I just went on to school like nothing happened. But guess what? 9 months later, I found out I'm pregnant. I never went to the doctor. I never had any prenatal care. You just took me and violated me and went a whole 9 months, never came back to see me, never came back to say you were sorry. You never told your parents what happened. But my mother was really angry. She was very angry at me. And if she could have killed me and got away with it because of you, I think that she would have did that. But God was in the picture somewhere. Anytime I carried a baby for 9 months and didn't know I was pregnant, came on my period every month, you know God is involved. And my son was born June 17th, 1970. In St. Philip's Hospital in Richmond, Virginia. He was born on Father's Day. So you can't tell me that there is no God, that there is no good God. You did that to me, but my son Jody have been more than a blessing to me. What you did to me, I found out that you have married this woman. She has a daughter. Did you do the same thing to her daughter? All these years, my son is 40-some years old, and you never got up enough balls, nigga. You never got up enough nerve to come to me and apologize to me for raping me in your car. And then when my mother decided to carry you to court, she was so upset. You came in the courtroom, you and your lawyer, and the judge wouldn't let me open my mouth. And you had the nerve to tell the judge and everybody in that courtroom that I had been with a Puerto Rican when you know that was the Lois Hobson or Bobo Hobson that was going with the Puerto Rican. You knew for a fact that I was untouched, that I was pure. Well, let me tell you something now, sucker. Because my God was such a good God, it's time for you to suffer. You stole Jody's heritage. You have stolen everything from my son, but you will find out through DNA today that he is your son. I was never with a Puerto Rican. The judge didn't let me say a word. Your lawyer controlled the whole case, and I'm going to sue the courts. I'm going to appeal the decision. I'm going to have a DNA test made. You will be the father. Because you were the first, and it wasn't voluntary. You took me because you know I was crazy about Edward Gears. But I'm going to say this. May the God I serve fix you in his own way. May today, when I make this tape and my son find out how he was conceived, I'm asking God to forgive me and my son Jody to forgive me. Jody, I didn't know. I had never been with anybody. I had never had sex. And the way your daddy took me is a terrible, terrible thing. I say this to all females. Tell somebody. This is not 1970. This is 2014. Tell only the truth. This boy hurt me. He was overage. He was a grown man. He lied, and he got away with it. But I must take this off of my heart, and I say, thank you, Jesus, for letting me tell this, to breathe the breath of life, to share this with other women and females, because they're going to try you. They're going to play all kinds of games to get to you. Remember, somebody cares. My God cares about me. That's why I can stand here at the state capitol of Virginia and walk over here to this door and go in. I make a difference. You make a difference. 40-some years I have kept that awful, ugly secret. But guess what? the word is out. This is Teddy Pound with What's New. You tune into me. I'm on all the social sites. I want you to know what's been happening. Jody, my son, my firstborn, I am so sorry. I am so sorry when he had the nerve 10 years later to come over to take you for a ride on his motorcycle. He wanted to show off. And I said to my mama, where have he been for 10 years? Now he wants to ride Jody on a motorcycle. Keep him for the weekend. Guess what happened when he brought my son back? That was a 2nd and 3rd degree burn on his right leg. The muffler on that motorcycle had seared his leg, but I had just asked him to let Jody put on some long pants. And he said no. Why would you make my son suffer like that and your son suffer? Why would you leave him with no medical attention for the whole weekend and bring him back to me Sunday night with his leg deformed where it had been burned so bad? But let me say this to you. I am a healer. I am a healer. God have used me to heal people, and guess what? If you look at Jody's leg today, where the 2nd and 3rd degree burns, guess what? There are no scars. There are no marks. My lifeguard days is just as pretty as the day that he was born. My God healed him. He used me. He used me to heal my son. That's why, Jody, you don't have anything to be afraid of. You don't have anything you should be ashamed of. You have saved many lives as a lifeguard in the city of Richmond and the county of Henrico. Chris, you are a lifeguard. You have saved many lives in the city of Richmond and the county of Henrico and the surrounding counties. Christina, you are a lifeguard. God made you guys special. You save people's lives, irregardless of the losers whose kids have done nothing but take lives. Lie, steal, and destroy like your parents. But your day comes soon. Your day comes soon. This is Teddy Pound. I'm a little bit upset now, but at least it's over. Once this video goes, I want this to go viral. I want women to know all over the world. Don't play with these guys. Don't tease these guys. Young girls, remove that red hot lipstick, cherry red lipstick. You're going to grow up too fast. And you could find yourself like me. Today they got date rape drugs. The guys know how to, what they call it about the virgin. The flower of virgin. That's what this sucker did to me. He took cold advantage of me at the age 15. And now I'm a ripe young woman. That's right. Maybe God will send somebody for me to love. I don't know what it is to love a man. I have other children, but you know what? Those two guys I let into my life, but they turned out to be disappointments too. So anyway, I'm not ashamed of anything that I've done. I'm a grown woman. If I was going to lay down with somebody, then I could say, I got a house. I got a king-size bed. Let's go. But that's not me. That's why I fight with the women battered, the rape women, the children, because I know how it feels. People are, how you know? Well, that's how I know, and I'm not ashamed. Over and out. Thank you.
Hit the red.